From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Yeah, it's a little long there. We're having some new tech tonight, so that's always fun and interesting for everyone. What everyone tunes in to hear about is what follies, what follies I've developed on this podcast adventure of ours. So hopefully
We're on an adventure.
this will work out. But anyway, this week again chronicling the death of the American dream. One show at a time. So
Just get your full Mark Maron on.
more angst. Speaking of angst, our contract was ratified.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was met with it was a 51% in favor, 49% opposed. There was no acrimony there at all. Everyone was really happy about the results.
It's like a presidential election.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, it was our plant or the Rouge site that carried the day because it looked like it was going to be voted down until all the votes were counted at the Dearborn facilities, and then it passed. So we're a bunch of, let's see, fucking pussy faggots. I hope I get to vote your pension away, you assholes. What else? Oh, it's my favorite one. Thanks for fucking me in the ass again. Fucking cocksuckers. But that's just what everyone says about the people at the Rouge. not like anonymously posted, so obviously some strong feelings there, but that's okay. What can you do about that?
I don't know why though that moment just made me go, what's going on in the sports ball?
Sports ball.
just it's when people like who don't know about sports or who like to pretend they don't know about sports and they just call everything that it's related to sports ball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is that.
I think Iowa is undefeated still.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah.
Which team?
The football team.
Football team. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
How long has it been since they've been to a big bowl game?
I don't know if they've ever been to a championship. They've been to some big bowl games like the Rose Bowl and stuff like that, but that's kind of meaningless. But yeah, they're undefeated right now, and it looks like they probably go the rest of the season undefeated. But the Big Ten is actually like 16 teams now, so
so they'll go undefeated until.
Well, see that they're in a different division. So if they win their division, then they go up against the other division winner in the Big Ten championship. So that means it'll probably be them versus Ohio State, which is chronically a very good football school.
Yeah. No matter how often they get suspended, get caught playing games.
So
games are supposed to be playing.
Yeah. So then that'll be the real test. I think they have to play in Nebraska, which that could, anything could happen there. But then they have to play Ohio State, which that would be a real test. Iowa was usually known for their linemen and their defense, but we had a surprisingly good offense this year
Oh, okay.
because we have like a really good running back. And then one game he got hurt, and it's like, oh, season's fucked.
It's
And then
over.
Then his backup came in and ran like 4 touchdowns. It's like, oh shit, we got 2 running backs.
That's always a good thing.
That's always the amazing thing about college football is that like at any moment somebody can get a chance and they can prove themselves. And it's like you never know like when that'll happen.
Yeah, well, that's true. Sports ball, everyone.
Yep, sports ball
Uh,
and auto unions.
yeah. Well, said nobody cares, but it's interesting.
I like that Dan Reichert put out. He's a guy works for Giant Bomb, and he is usually honest about things he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And it's like he put it out on Twitter. He's like, I've been working for 14 years and I still don't know what a union is. And so like the Twitter tried to explain to him what a union was.
Sometimes I don't know what a union is. I mean, I know what they're supposed to be. I generally, I don't have a relationship. You know, I'm one of those guys. I'm really a ghost at work. I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't, and not because I'm an asshole. It's just because let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had good friends at work. I've met people that I think are cool, but really at work, I'm not real talkative and like outgoing, and I'm definitely not involved in things. Like, a lot of the guys in the upper echelons of the union, people are like, oh, he just rides around in a cart and sits in an office all day. And it's like, yeah, but his whole life outside of work is, well, we got to go to this march. We got to go to this activity. We got to build things for homeless people or do. It's like there's just this whole melange of stuff that goes on outside of work. It's kind of like a social thing, and I don't participate, not because I don't want to, but because I kind of see that as work. It's like, I have my space where I like to go and relax, and it's not outside of work. So. But yeah, sometimes I don't know. It's just like this thing. So many people voted against it. Like, well, General Motors and Chrysler went before us, and they're both automakers and pretty much have the same agreement. So you knew it was going to happen. And when you pretty much got the same thing they did, everyone's like, oh, screw this. We're going to go and it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to go on strike? I mean, really? You gotta pay attention to what the job market is right now. It's not a time for we're gonna take a stand, because they'll just ship the shit right to, Argentina or China or wherever they want to. I mean, GM's already trying to import a car from China with this contract. And I had people way up in the company. I mean, like people that ran the entire plants say in meetings, if we get cars from this country from China, we're fucked. Because people are so poor now, by and large. If they can buy a brand new car for $8,000 or $9,000, they don't care if it catches on fire. It's the first opportunity they've had to own a new car. And so I just think the writing's on the wall. People is and the thing is I don't consider it bad. Is it $100 an hour and everlasting hard-ons? No, but I don't think anyone who's rational thinks we're going to get that. They're making a lot of money right now, but believe me, that pendulum swings pretty violently, pretty quickly. So you can't make agreements with these people that are going to bankrupt them when the business settles down to just normal sales levels, let alone we go into another depression or whatever. So yeah, I don't know what to do. I mean, but calling people assholes and shitheads on Facebook, and these are fellow union people. This isn't like the guys who like to snipe stuff in newspapers about, oh, these overpaid slugs. We're those guys that hate our guts. Most of whom have never worked a day in their life, or they'll talk about how hard it was working in their dad's accounting office or something. That's their story of hard work. And American ingenuity. So yeah, that's so we've already got that acrimony. But then you want to start this internal shit where you don't have a leg to stand on. I mean, you don't. They negotiated this. They're saying vote for it. You could vote against it and send them back to the table, but you're probably gonna get less, and you're not gonna get what you want. So, because Chrysler did that, and yeah, they moved some money around. It's like, well, we'll give all our employees an extra $1,000, but we are gonna close that one plant over here in this state. It's like, oh, so you won, huh? You got it. And they did. What's the other two-step about? Oh, we're going to get fined for our health insurance now. They tried to. They were going to try to come up with some kind of fluid health insurance continuum that would allow you to avoid the Obama tax for having too much health insurance. Which okay, no one explain that to me, but yeah, I guess we're overinsured, so we have to pay a special fee. I mean, that whole thing is, trust me, Obamacare or whatever, that's dead by the next election. So hopefully we won't have to worry about it. Because no matter who gets elected, it's going to have to be retooled, and I think everyone knows it. This is why it's why our car insurance has skyrocketed. And I don't know if you've seen some of the premiums that have changed from this year to last. Like people are reporting they're having to pay 500% more for the same health, because initially they had to give it to everyone.
Yeah.
Or jacking everyone's premium. It's like, okay, fuck you guys. You're just, whatever. It's, but yeah, it's a big mess. So whatever happens with that, I don't know. Because the UAW is so intertwined with the Democratic Party that they don't really want to say, well, Obama fucked us on this one. Well, they can't come out and say that. They should, but they can't. So,
I mean, they can.
Yeah, but who else are they going to align themselves with?
Yeah, that's what you just do, though. That's whoever the next candidate they're going to align themselves. That's what you say, fuck Obama, and then, like, all praise whatever candidate they get behind.
No, I just meant, like, switch affiliations. Like those guys and, like, the guys who like, think the UAW should throw their weight behind Trump.
Yeah.
I've heard these conversations in the break room. I don't participate, but I will stop and stare like, oh, please keep talking. I want to see where this goes. Yeah, but that's so that's settled. So maybe I'll have a job for a couple years. Who knows? Who knows what plan I'll be working at? I did like how the World Socialist Worker online newsletter said that the employees at the Rouge, which is generically where I work, it's the same complex, were all bullied into voting for yes. Their arms were twisted by union thugs who undermine their best interests. And this is what I love when I read, and someone posted this on Facebook too, and I love when I read this stuff. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't some bullshit I'm just spitting off of the top of my head. I actually work there, and I don't recall being bullied. I just went in and voted and left. So, but that's they always that group always attacks the UAW. So, because we're not what did they say we should ask for? 30% raises, elimination of all tiering of pay, and we should transfer forward to public ownership. And employees should run the company and determine what vehicles are produced and under what circumstances. I'm like, that's a cool idea. However, that's never going to work. But I love the acrimony of people.
They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
Anyway. The Russians have dusted off their bombers.
Yes.
And started pounding the hell out of Syria.
Just in response to them figuring out it was a bombing for that flight.
Well, they've been bombing the shit out of the people that are against Assad for a year or more. Now.
Yeah.
But the new level, this is the most the bombing in Al Raqqa, which is the headquarters of ISIS. This is the most comprehensive sea and air bombing campaign the Russians have launched since the Cold War. They're using
So
both-
literally dusting things off.
literally dusting things off. They're using the Tupolev Tu-22, which is known as the backfire bomber in NATO parlance, which that's kind of like their medium supersonic bomber. And then they're using the which one is it? They're using, of course, the Tu-88s, the counter rotating, the Bear bomber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's like their
Those-
Sereno fortress. It's been around forever. And
Well, yeah, because the that's one of those planes that like the engineering is so efficient that there's no reason to replace it for like 100 years.
it's gonna be like it's a 100-year plane. But the backfires and the Bears, that kind of like that's in their wheelhouse. But everyone's really surprised they're using the Tu-160s. They call them White Swan. We call them the Blackjack. They're basically the clone of our
The B-1 bomber.
very similar to our B-1.
Okay.
It looks more like the Valkyrie prototype for the B-1, but these were thought to have faded so badly that they could never.
Is that the swing wing bomber or is that something?
Yeah.
Does that thing even fucking? I guess so. I didn't think that thing fucking worked.
Oh yeah. Well, they've thrown a lot of money into what they
Oh,
call
okay.
modernization.
Okay.
They're going to start manufacturing them again, I guess.
They just fixed the wings.
I don't know. Well, they gave a bunch. The Ukraine gave a bunch of them back for like food or economic aid, or I don't know. They've slowly been reacquiring all the pieces on the board.
Well, I was in that Boyd book. They talk about all the swing wing stuff and stuff. They talk about the F-14, which is like one of the worst planes ever ever made.
Dog, I know that.
Yeah. But like it looks so cool in Top Gun that everyone's like, yeah, that's the best fighter plane ever. And then like in the book they just talk about like, just the whole swing wing aspect of it is like that's your failure point right there, is right where the wing rotates. And so like to have to keep maintenance on it is a nightmare. So like they're horribly expensive. They weren't that maneuverable, even though they could say, that's what the swing wing was supposed to do. It's supposed to, like, when it speeds up, it's an arrow, and then when it slows down, it has the ability to have, to have more maneuverable surfaces. So it can, but like it didn't either.
Yeah.
And so it just had a big rocket on it, because like apparently the Navy just loved to do that. It's like that was the same thing with the F-4 Phantom. It's like this plane sucks, but if you put a big enough engine on it, like you can kind of make it work well enough.
Totally bad. It's like those hot rods from the 70s,
Yeah.
60s. It's like this car has the geometry of a go-kart, but it's got a Hemi engine in it, and it's yeah. Yeah, the Blackjack has a weird development history because, again, they were just pacing our B-1. And the B-1 was one of those horribly expensive, like Carter tried to cancel it, like programs, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is terrible. And so, because the Blackjack didn't really debut until the very end of the Cold War. And even then, everyone looked at it and kind of rolled their eyes like, oh, fuck, this is just this another Soviet boondoggle. But apparently this uses a lot more of what they call the body lift technique, where the body and the wing kind of both provide the lifting surface instead of just the wing.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, that swing wing was always the weakness, but it is a Mach 2 plus bomber, and they're using them. And another thing that helps these planes are the guided munitions make them a lot more effective than they ever were.
Yeah.
Because they just got to get there and get out and just do their stuff. But it is funny to see them flying again. It's like, oh, that's a blast from the past. And the fact that they're going back into production.
Oh, they're getting more.
Well, they made more in 2000 and 2008. 2008 was the big modernization program. And now they're just like, oh, we're just going full production on these. So I don't know. Because the backfire has been around since the 60s. That's like the little brother to this one.
Okay.
The Bear has been around. Well, the Bear has characteristics of the Super Fortress. Like it's very, very old. But it is cool. just loud as hell. But yeah, it's interesting to see the Russians are just going balls deep and
Any show of force they can that's justified. Because hell, if the French are bombing something, then it's like, oh shit, we better get on this. Nobody will give a fuck if we bomb it. If the French are bombing something, we can bomb it too.
point. Shit.
See if these things work.
Yeah, paid enough for these things.
Nope. We'll have to send in the army to reclaim our nuclear material we dropped on Syria.
Our broken arrow we dropped into ISIS country. See if they can re-engineer that and deliver it to New York before the Delta Force can run it down. It sounds like a bad novel. Well, they do have they have a lot of the video of the Russian bombings, which, like I said, they'll just drop ordnance right in the middle of a city. They don't give a fuck, and they but this is in retaliation for killing 200 Russian citizens on a plane.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not gonna say it's like, yeah, well, you kind of brought that on yourself, but so it's not an indiscriminate thing. But the guys have been videotaping it, and they all say that they all say that, you know, God is great over and over again while they're being bombed. I don't understand that. I understand why they'd say it before they shot a rocket at something, but now they're saying that maybe they're trying to make that the last thing they say before they die if the bombs hit them. I don't know, but
Wait, what did they say?
that Allahu Akbar.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, they're just saying that over and over and over again like a chant
it's
while the bombs are falling on them. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. Maybe it's like Gesundheit, or, you know, God bless you when you
Yeah.
sneeze. When you're bombed, make sure to say Allah Akbar so your soul doesn't escape and go to hell.
Yeah, maybe there is something about it, but it's like, wait a minute, I thought you said that when you were doing something like, you know, bad that you thought was good, not when you're getting the shit kicked out.
Well, all it means is God is great, so maybe they're just
Yeah.
invoking God to not kill them.
Yeah, please don't let me die. Again, don't put bombs on Russian planes. Russians won't come bomb the shit out of you.
Russians will put bombs on their planes, and then
Yeah.
they'll drop them off into your front door.
Yeah, if you have a thing with Russian aviation, it comes right to your when they're firing those cruise missiles like as fast as they can get them off their ships. They have a big video of that.
I imagine.
Like these the ones they're firing them from the Caspian Sea,
Yeah.
and it's just like one after another after another. Like, holy shit!
You know what that's probably about, don't you?
What?
They haven't used these things in such a long time that they need to use them now. They'll be worthless in a few years.
Oh, it's like let's get everything going, boys.
Well, remember how the was it the Kiev? No, not the Kiev. What the fuck? The Kursk. The Kursk.
Oh, the Kursk, yeah,
Remember how that happened because they just had outdated
yeah.
like the torpedoes were outdated and they sat around for so long that the
Fuel caught on fire.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it used what did it use? It used like pure sodium or something like that.
No, it was the dummy torpedoes. They were peroxide driven.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
And it's
when they
very
mix it out-
corrosive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it mixes well with salt water. Blows the bow of your submarine off. So, yeah, that's probably what it is. It's like, to use this shit.
Although I mean, I doubt that cruise missiles are not necessarily have something like a corrosive thing like that as the torpedoes did, but you know, all these things have a shelf life, and if you don't use them, you know, you're like, and there's plenty of pictures of all the shit that Russia didn't use, and it's just like, oh, that just went to waste.
It could have been so beautiful.
Come on, get out that Ekrano plan.
Yes, let's send the sea monster in. What the hell is that? Oh, it's just coming across the water at you.
Is that the biologist?
Yeah, what is that? Being attacked? Get in the lighthouse. Oh, these are the Russian cruise missiles are the brand new ones.
Oh yeah, okay.
These are the ones that we didn't know they had that kind of range because they have a really. I mean, the Russians have always made nasty cruise missiles, though. Especially if you put nukes on them, you know, then they're really nasty. Oh, that thing goes 3 times the speed of sound and flies at treetop level. Yep, can't stop that. So who knows how long that's going to go on. Hopefully for a long time. You'd think, by bombing something from the air like that intensively, it's like, well, there can't be anything left. But then you realize when you read stuff like from World War II, it's like even day-night bombings round the clock. It's like, yeah, we got 30% of the city. It's like, only 30%? God, you couldn't see the sun for all the planes in the sky. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you go through all the history of all wars, air power can never change anything on the ground alone.
Yeah. What you need is artillery that you can from America. Like those things that go up into the atmosphere.
Strato cannon.
They had shit like that in World War I, didn't they? Didn't the Germans have some giant gun?
I don't know.
I think we should go back to something like the. Have you ever read Gravity's Rainbow?
No.
It's a Thomas Pynchon book, so it's strange, but it's there's a lot of information about the V1 and V2 rockets, and they weren't wildly effective in terms of like, oh, this has strategic value, but the thing with the V1 was it just had a little propeller in it, and when it reached a certain amount of rotations, cut the engines off and it just dropped like a stone. But that whole journey there, it was loud. It was like, bah. You're in a house, you're like, when's that engine gonna cut? When's that engine gonna cut? And as soon as it did, you're like, oh shit. I think, yeah, just round the clock buzz bombings of that city might just, we need something noisy. Because in the book he said, I don't know how accurate, this was a weird book. I don't know how accurate it was about German rocketry in World War II, but I heard it was actually pretty sound. He said the problem with the V2 was it was hypersonic. So it was like it would hit the ground and it blow up and then the sonic boom would come. So it wasn't as psychologically devastating. It was like it outran its own warning or something, some statement like that. But yeah, that was maybe we need to do something like that. But yeah, aerial bombardment, like you were saying, it looks very effective, but yeah, I guess really not.
But yeah, just like
it doesn't change things, I guess, like you said.
Well, I mean, it's like people on the you can like, things go. I mean, even like with Afghanistan, we like they really rephrased everything like that. Like when the gunships are coming in, it's like we put the Stinger missile in, and that won us everything because like the helicopter's so devastating. It's like, yeah, but like they still could have got around it. Like it.
Yeah.
It's there was even stuff like that in the Korean War where like the Chinese wouldn't operate during the day because then like planes would just come by and shoot them. So they just fucking hid in the forest at night or in the forest in the day and slept, and then like when they woke up, it's like, all right, let's start running in directions and killing things. Yeah.
Wake up, boys! Time to kill.
Well,
yeah, that's, that book. That one about the developing of the Spectre gunship in the Vietnam era. I think the book was called Flying Through Midnight. Like that was their thing. Was it's like if we could attack them at night, if we could, because they were trying to develop effective night vision for the gunships and stuff, so they could stop the supply trains.
Yeah.
And that was always their thing. Like this could win us the war if we could have 24-hour aerial air supremacy, where we could just attack things indiscriminately on the ground. Never worked out, but.
Well, see, that's just where I mean, if you had that technology back in World War II where you didn't have like news organizations lying around or social media, like that maybe it might be an effective thing. But the problem is like when you start to bombard a place like that, then you start changing your tactics and you start losing, like your morals and stuff. It's like, you know what? We're just going to have school children transport all our military equipment, and then let's see what happens when they bomb a bunch of school children.
Right. Yeah. It's always something.
Because even like, in Vietnam, like they like a lot of things is like, oh, they went through Laos. And so, we couldn't bomb them in Laos, and that's the way they got around us. It was like, even if you could have bombed them, even if they stayed in the same place and you kept bombing them, they would have got whatever through. It's like they live there. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, they're just tunnel networks and yeah, that's
I mean, even like you go to the Alexander the Great book I read. I said that weird. Alexander the Great book.
that Alexander the Great book. Yeah, the great book about Alexander.
Like how they were able to win in Afghanistan was like they couldn't have an army. Like you just had to you had to break your army down to small groups and then send them off on their way. And then like you couldn't control them anymore. Like they basically went into an area, killed everybody, took it over, and lived there. Like that's how they won. And like they married the local people and then had kids, and it's like we won. Our kids are now the people.
Yeah, beaten you genetically. Yeah, that is weird. I don't know. It's really so no one's ever figured that out.
How to control things from the air?
No, how to win wars, where you don't just like flatten the country or place. Especially hard to win wars where the people have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
like the Germans had something to lose. Destroy their industry, destroy their infrastructure, destroy their leadership. Yeah, that's it. We surrender.
yeah.
That was the last big victory. You know.
Yeah, when you're moving rocks around in a place made of rocks.
Yeah. Well, and their lives are so, especially in places like Afghanistan, their lives are so hard. Just living would be like war here. Like it's just, and all they've ever done is fight each other.
Yeah.
Like it's not something like, oh, internally they're a great loving people, but you know, it's when the foreigners come, they all turn violent. No, they'll keep killing each after we leave. They'll keep killing each other. And then the terrorist stuff. It's like, it's almost like Coke versus Pepsi now. It's Al Qaeda versus ISIS. Al Qaeda feels like they're losing their brand image. You know, really, they don't communicate it that way, but that's what it's like. They're losing ground to the even crazier.
It's like even the stuff we did, they're blaming it on ISIS. That was our thing. That was horrible.
Yeah. Well, they had a little blurb on Frontline about ISIS this week, where some cameraman went in there and just talked to these people, and then they are, I mean, they're as crazy as you thought they were, as you could imagine. It's just, and the logic, because these people are just talking like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And everything comes back to, well, we got to have this caliphate, world domination of Islam, and you know, and it's like, well, you're never going to achieve that. Well, maybe not in my life, and maybe not in my son's life, but you know, when people start talking like that, that's really frightening.
Yeah.
Like, not only will I damn myself for this terrible ideology, but I'll damn my children and my children's children. It's like, what the fuck? Oh.
Do you think that people are just scared of modernization? Like eventually our culture is going to homogenize and it's not going to be Islam.
Well, yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger. I don't know what. I mean,
because don't you get the feeling that like places that used to be shitty that are now fine are just because culturally they've caught up with the rest of the world?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like and like that can even happen even quicker with like, you know, the internet and such.
I do think there's kind of a definitely an old power structure that's trying to hold on, but I also think, like, the thing with ISIS and people like that is, you know, these aren't 70-year-old men pushing the ideology of their youth. These are young guys and people from first world countries even that feel so disenfranchised with their societies that they would like to go do something like this. This, like, I don't know how quickly they regret that decision. Kind of like we were talking about that documentary, The Bridge, about the people that jump off the bridge and live.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those suicide bombers is right before the planes explodes or the bomb goes off or whatever have second thoughts. I bet you there's quite a few. But I don't know what I think we have a problem with people that feel so disenfranchised that they would actually want to go do this and think
Yeah.
that it's something glorious and something good, and they absolutely believe that. Like that's what's so weird about it. Is you sit down, you watch them interview these people, they talk to them, and they ask rational questions, and these are the answers they get, and that's I don't know. That's
Well, I
frustrating.
mean, it's I don't know. A lot it's like those people that they can't accept that their failures are their own.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's definitely.
It's like it's the world's problem, not my problem.
Well, yeah. What always amazes me is like these people that I can understand if like a bunch of people fled Alabama. I couldn't understand it, but at least if they said like, "Oh, these guys all fled Alabama to join ISIS," it's like, well, yeah, that's a pretty grim part of the country. They're probably in a much worse place now, but I could sort of see it living in that kind of grinding poverty and the kind of hate that creates. But I don't understand these people that are like from the suburbs of Virginia or from London or something like that. It's like, why are you leaving a first world prosperous country where you have all kinds of opportunities because you want to go fight for ISIS? I mean, what do you?
Oh, but if these are the people that feel disenfranchised, isn't it like the core place to be disenfranchised? Like, I'm not making it here, and there's all this opportunity. It's like it must be the world's problem.
Yeah, this is because we don't have a caliphate. I don't know. And this is just the movement of the moment. There's always been things like this.
Yeah.
The communists, the Nazis, the whoever before that, the people that believed in the royal families. I don't know, whatever they had. There's always been struggle, but and women and children and civilians have always been targeted in these struggles too. It's like you said, that's how Alexander the Great. You take over the villages, you just show up and rape. All the kids are yours. You've won. That's kind of long-term genetic warfare.
Yeah.
But the scary thing is now is the kind of destructive tools. I mean, if somebody has access to a sword, you can do a lot of damage in a certain area. Firearm spreads that out a little bit, but when you start talking biological weapons, nerve gas, nuclear bombs, I mean, you don't know who's going to get a hold of what. That's why I'm glad that the crazies have alienated the Russians so much. But if anyone was ever tempted to sell something, I could see it being the Russians. Not nukes, maybe, but
Something. Something James Bond would go after.
Yeah, some kind of.
Have you seen that new movie?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of completely forgot it existed.
Yeah, I haven't been doing very good on my movies. I haven't been following up.
Apparently, it's all about how like all of Bond's lovers so far in the Daniel Craig universe have been like killed horribly in some way. Well, like that. Apparently, that's what this is about. It's like somebody's intentionally doing that to him.
Oh, okay. The guy with the white cat in the wheelchair.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah. What else was I going to talk? Oh, the Subway guy got sentenced this week.
Oh yeah, it was like 16 years or something.
Yeah, not enough, but whatever.
He won't make it.
Somebody, I forget what center of Pulitzer Prize winning journalism this was, but somebody was speculating that he's going to gain a lot of weight because really the reason he lost 250 pounds was because he just transferred from food addiction to sex stuff.
Yeah.
He won't have access to that in prison. He's going to just sit around and, just fill his commissary with Twix or whatever.
I mean, couldn't he just transfer that addiction to like a workout addiction?
Yeah, probably, but he seems to like self-destructive things.
Yeah. Workouts, yeah.
Yeah, those hurt. Throw up a lot, but
They can only do
size today, Nathan. It's just bucket full of vomit.
Fill the bucket.
Yeah,
Pretty soon I'm going to need another bucket.
yeah. I love walking fast and picking up heavy things, and jumping rope. Oh,
Yeah, where the
but I guess he cried at his sentencing, or his sentencing.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you had to show emotion. I'm redeemable. Sure.
Yeah, you're redeemable once you get caught. And Charlie Sheen is a sex addict who spreads AIDS around, I guess.
Well, he swears he didn't spread it. So,
Yeah.
although the
Because if you sleep with people and you have AIDS and you don't use a condom, what are the chances?
yeah.
You know?
Well, that was a weird. Like, I read some part of the interview, and he said he's had unprotected sex with like 3 partners since he's got his diagnosis, but apparently they're fine. I'm like, how does that work?
Well, I mean, I guess it can work, but
Yeah,
it's
but
the equivalent of playing Russian roulette by pointing the gun at somebody else. Let's see
Yeah.
what happens. It's very selfish, strange behavior. Doesn't surprise me though.
no.
I'm not like, oh, that's a bolt out of the blue. Freaking lunatics. Oh man. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, played Battlefront, the new Star Wars game.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. Gets a little repetitive though.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
The AI's really good. They won't leave you the fuck alone. You can find those corners to hide in, but not in that.
Yeah, I heard it's just like it looks really great, and then it's fun for a while, but then it gets
Gets old.
yeah, pretty quick. I hear a lot of people just like pissed off that you don't like enter any vehicle or anything. You just like you take a knee and then suddenly you're in a vehicle.
Oh. Yeah, they don't seem to have a lot of that.
Well, it's like in the other Battlefield games, or even the Battlefront games, like there would be a vehicle there, it would spawn, and then you'd have to get inside it. Whereas here, it's just like there's an icon that shows up on the map, and then you just go to it, and then you just basically like transfer your consciousness to the pilot inside the thing or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And the same thing goes for like when they spawn like hero characters. So like when you become Darth Vader or whatever, you do the same thing.
Yeah, they have Boba Fett as a hero character.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I hear he's cool to use.
Yeah. Well, he actually has the rocket pack that doesn't have like the 2-minute cooldown on it. So, because like a lot of the rocket troopers, you have a rocket pack. You're like, oh, cool. You press it, and then it like takes forever to recharge. It's like, oh, this isn't a lot of good. But yeah, it does look great.
But it sounds great too.
Oh yeah.
Because like DICE definitely knows how to do sound really, really well. And like now they just have the Star Wars library to work with, so it's probably even better.
Yeah, I think there's probably some things they need to round off. But it's mainly an online multiplayer game, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any single player component. I mean, there might be some like practice things, or
Yeah.
there's probably a horde mode or something, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. What do you mean by horde mode?
It's just like you spawn and then you go into a level and they just keep sending waves of people after you.
Oh yeah, they do have that. They actually fight like walkers and stuff. As a guy with, mainly a laser gun, like, oh, that's happened a lot in the movies.
And then it's the year of the burn cards. Because like you don't. They have like some. I think they have something in that game where your power up, like you like get cards every once in a while, and you can use them as like power ups or whatever.
Oh, okay.
There's
That's what you do.
There's like 4 other games that do that. Because like Halo does that too.
Oh, okay.
And I think that actually started with Titanfall. Titanfall started that
Yeah.
because that was also just an online only game, and they wanted that little hook where they can get some extra money out of it. It's like, well, you can buy card packs, and so
Yeah, you could buy them with game currency too.
yeah, they offer both. So so they don't want to feel like they always want that perception of value. Is like, oh, I'm getting ripped off. I already spent $60 on this game. I'm not spending it anymore. It's like, well, you can play it longer and you can get the same experience.
Yeah.
Or if you just have money, just pay your way to win.
Just pay your way to victory.
Yep, that's what they have. That's why they do that stuff, because then they no longer have cheat codes in video games. You just have to pay for the cheat code. Because
Code.
that's the thing, is like, if you have the money to spend it, then why not? Then why not?
Right.
So, and that's what they prey on. They call them whales. And people spend obscene amount of money on things that are expendable.
Oh, yeah. Those people that like buy the Warhammer characters.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a 900th level druid, but I don't want to play the game for
Yeah.
4 years solid. So.
Oh, that's like Candy Crush too. There's some people that spend like hundreds of dollars a week on a game, and it's like, it's just a fucking match 3 game. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I don't buy those games where you got to purchase stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is
iPad.
most of that stuff is free to play games, but like,
Yeah.
that's the hook, is that like there's always some sort of lockout where it's like, if you do something and like you have to wait to play the game. It's like, or you can buy a coin and play it right now, and like that's how they get you. So,
Oh, okay.
because that's all the like Chinese, because gaming's pretty huge in China because there's a lot of Chinese, and but like nobody in China wants to pay for anything, so they have this whole free to play model where like everything. So the game is free to download, it's free to play, but they usually offer like character costumes and things like that you have to pay for. And then because when people really get into these kinds of games, they want to individualize their character as much as they can, so they just get millions and millions of dollars raking in from that. Because it's free to play, anybody can download it, so your user base is huge. But like your payer base isn't that much. But like when your user base is so huge, it really doesn't matter. So if you have 100 million people playing your game and you get a cent from like 10% of them, it's like you're in the money.
Yeah, it doesn't take much in China to become a millionaire.
Because that's what they made a command. I think they made a version of Company of Heroes. They made a Chinese version because people liked the game there, but nobody wanted to buy it. They just wanted to steal it.
Right.
So that they just made a free to play version. Same thing with I think there's a Call of Duty that they made specifically for China that's free to play. Because there's a market there, but like I said, nobody wants to pay for the game. They just want to have it on their computer for free, and then eventually choose to I want a smiley face on my gun.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. So Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like usually, like when people say Warhammer, they immediately go to Warhammer 40K, right? Because that's
You're talking about the medieval game.
yes, the fantasy one.
Yeah, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay or whatever.
Yeah. They're ending that.
No.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. They're making a storyline where the world is ending, and they're going to end Warhammer. So the end of the world in Warhammer is coming.
That's terrible. I remember that was a great book. I had that book, the original one.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the one. Because the first one wasn't even tabletop.
Yeah.
I think they were just trying to compete with D&D.
Yeah.
And then it went into the tabletop stuff.
Yeah, they just came out with a video game called Warhammer Vermintide.
Oh yeah.
Which is about like the end of days in that world. It's like a co-op shooter, kind of like in the vein of Left 4 Dead.
Oh, okay.
So
That's a cool idea. That should be. I mean, that whole game was pretty grim. So
yeah, I just like the idea that like, all right, we're gonna end the world. It's like, really? It's like, that's kind of bold. I mean, it's probably not their money maker, and probably everybody thinks it's a World of Warcraft ripoff, even though it's the other way around.
yeah, I was gonna say that's around in the 80s.
I mean, really, I mean, it's a ripoff of like Tolkien, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Everything's a ripoff of Tolkien,
Yeah,
and he's a ripoff of what did his stuff come? Grim fairy tales, or
yeah. Yeah, a new StarCraft game came out too. I need to get that, but there's too many fucking games right now.
what's the new StarCraft one called?
Legacy of the Void,
Oh, okay.
because this is still StarCraft 2. Because like what they did with StarCraft 2 is that they released StarCraft 2, but that was like the Terran campaign, and then there was Heart of the Swarm, and that was the Zerg campaign, and then this is finally the Protoss campaign.
Oh, okay. That's right. They do that, don't they?
Yeah. But yeah, they just like released they focused on one campaign at a time and then released them. So that got released. I'm not sure how much it is, but I definitely want to play it. It's just there's so many games right now, and I've bought so many RTS games that I haven't played, but I might actually play that one because I remember I bought a whole new computer just to play StarCraft 2.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was like the third computer ago. I bought StarCraft 2 and it didn't work. I'm like, fuck it. I'm spending $900 on a new computer to play a $50 game.
Whatever happened to what was it? Command and Conquer?
Oh, it just died.
Just died.
Yeah, they what do they do to it? I mean, EA owns the license. And I think they when they released, they had a moment there where they had Command and Conquer 3 came out, and then they also had Red Alert 3 came out, and I think that stuff did okay, but nothing great. And then at some point they were making a Generals 2.
Right.
But that got shelved. They got rid of that. And then they were making a free-to-play Command and Conquer where it was just called Command and Conquer. And then that went under as well. Like I signed up for the beta for that, and then it just disappeared. But that was like one of those things where they got new management, and that was like the first thing to go.
Clean house, huh?
Yeah. And mostly what's been happening to RTSs in general is that MOBAs has kind of taken up that genre. So like people that might play RTS are now just playing MOBAs. Like League of Legends and Dota 2. Like that's what they play. Which is like Dota is like the original MOBA, which Dota was a mod to Warcraft 3. And that Warcraft 3 mod is still exists and is still being updated. And Dota 2, which is a game that Valve owns, takes like they reconfigure and take updates from what they do to the original Dota.
Wow, so it's had quite a lot of legs, huh?
Yeah, it's a fucking weird thing. Yeah. I just remember playing Warcraft 3. I love playing tower defense mode because there is a mode where they just have this track where they throw enemies on it, and like you just had to build like those towers that would like those base towers that would like attack enemies, and that's all you did. And then that eventually just became a game unto itself. It just became a tower defense that became a whole genre.
Huh.
So yeah, it was like two genres kind of spawned from from Warcraft 3.
That's like reminds me of like what was the other Counter Strike.
Yeah.
Like that was a game that came from Half-Life. But then I don't know if does that still have still have legs under it?
Yo, fuck yeah.
I'm sure it does, but
I don't know why, but it's because like that game is so fucking unforgiving.
yeah.
But it's still
Brutal.
essentially, yeah. Yeah, but like millions of people still play that game.
Oh, okay.
And there's even like a split because at some point where they remade Counter-Strike in the Source engine, and so that became a split in the demographic where it's like they call them 1.6. I think is Counter-Strike 1.6 was like the last old Counter-Strike update, and there's some people just swear by 1.6 and they never update. Or they never play an updated game. They just play 1.6 all the time.
Oh, okay.
Because now it's called CS:GO. Like that's what you get on Steam. It's like a game you have to actually purchase. It's not just a Half-Life mod anymore. They kind of have, but they've done a lot of things to it. Like they're constantly updating that because that's another. It's not free to play, but there are like things you can buy in that game, like separate from just the game itself. And they put that game on sale for like $4 all the time. So at some point you can get that game. Like I just have that game, but they update it all the time. So it's like it's almost like a completely different game. Like they did one. It's like Gun Game. I think that was a mode in Black Ops where like you start off with one gun and the more people you kill, you get a different gun, and then like everybody's trying to race to like the last gun.
Oh, okay.
So that's a pretty fun mode. And they have all different kind of stuff like that, and then they have special guns you can have. You can customize your gun. It's stupid, but whatever.
I'm watching the best of weird things on Counter Strike. It's like people standing on top of other people's heads.
Yeah. You see the gun jugglers. That stuff's always weird. Because there's a thing where you can like toss your gun away, and like if you just do that when you're pointing in the air, you can just sit there and juggle your gun.
Oh, okay.
or there's even more because it has like Havoc physics. You can juggle your gun in the air, and then you switch to your next gun, and then you can just shoot the gun while it's in the air and just keep it afloat with your bullets.
They certainly have enough gun options.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty old looking game.
I remember they used to have like the official names of the weapons in the old the old versions, and then they had to change it all at some point because they were getting lawsuits.
Yeah.
So that's when the Desert Eagle just became the Deagle.
Who is suing them?
Whoever.
It's free advertising.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably at the time they're probably like somebody's using our name, like sue them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of gun like I think it was called the AWM, or no, it was I think it was called the OP, like the AWP, and that was like an actual sniper rifle, and then they changed it to AWM or something like that. So very, very minute changes.
Right.
But then the M16 and AK-47, that never changes.
Yeah. Well, it's that gun. I don't think people don't own the rights to that gun, do they?
No, well, I mean, they would if they called it like a Colt AR-15 or something like that.
Yeah.
But because it's like a military designation, like that doesn't have like ownership in its name. It's just like a couple letters and some numbers. It's like if they had like Beretta 92F and they just changed it to M9, it wouldn't mean anything. It's like that's just the military designation. Everybody knows what that gun is, but it's not being called Beretta.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, people come up with some weird mods and things to do. They like Japanese kitten girls painting the walls.
Well, yeah, there's always been horrible tags in that game.
Huh.
Just, when people would just spray porn everywhere.
Nice.
And then you stop to look at it and get shot in the head. It was like, haha, you were looking at porn.
Oh, that's funny.
Uh,
Never seen
yeah,
that.
man, I used to play that back in the day with a 56K modem. That was some shit.
The lag.
And enjoyed it somehow. I mean, it took forever to find a server that could like host my game with a ping around 120. No, I can't even remember what that stands for. Ping 120, whatever. Yeah. There's like, it took forever to find a game, but like when it worked, it felt really good. But like, I don't even know like how I could stand that back in the day, because like I guess I just didn't understand how it worked or didn't work, and now I know where the seams are, and I'm like, fuck this. But because I was ignorant at the time, I enjoyed it.
Well, I used to play a lot of Team Fortress online.
Yeah.
We had cable internet then, but it was some early form.
Yeah.
Like it is today.
Yeah.
But, I used to do that with a computer.
Well, I mean, nowadays a lot of it's on the software end, because that's where I think it was either Quake 2 or Quake 3. I want to say it's Quake 3 maybe. That's where John Carmack came up with predictive logic.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's like two people have an internet connection. One person fires, the other person fires. Then maybe in reality, none of them hit each other. But then the algorithm's going through and like correcting things. Like, all right, who fired best? This guy. And then he gets a headshot. And then you're sitting there going, what the fuck just happened? It was like predictive logic, because it made it seem like it happened in real time when really it didn't.
I did not know that. That sounds scary. Makes me wonder if there's predictive logic at work in my life.
Well, I mean, you're still playing the game. It's just at some point the software has to interpret what you did as one thing, and that might be wrong, but it keeps the game going rather than just like nobody ever hits each other. But that code that he did is like still used in online shooters. Like I think like somewhere that's still like the basis for Call of Duty netcode. So like somewhere like they used to have to like say like Unreal Engine 3 somewhere like in the credits, because Call of Duty used that for their netcode.
Oh, okay.
But they might have like changed that so much by now that they can just like claim it as their own thing.
Yeah, that's usually how that stuff works.
Either that or Carmack just gave it to free to everybody. It's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to make something better. And then he went and now he's on Oculus.
Oh, is that what he's doing now?
Yeah. Because he's not with id anymore. He left them.
Yeah. I thought he was going to do Elon Musk's space thing.
He does that too.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, he does. He's a millionaire. He's a millionaire genius. He does whatever he wants. So
nice to be a millionaire genius.
he's the chief technical officer for Oculus. So basically it means like he just gets to go fuck with hardware and software, and it's like, hey, is this stuff up to snuff? Nope. It's all right. We're gonna keep working on it. I think like his original intention for Oculus is he wanted to make the best latency 3D device the cheapest way possible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think like some of his original designs was like literally just like was like a cardboard shell with some of the hardware like glued to it.
Nice.
And people are amazed by it because he's like, yeah, this is $60 worth of shit.
3D for the masses. Well, now a lot of those they have where you put your smartphone in front of them.
Yeah. 'Cause I think
Oculus has one of those.
I'm not sure if they do, but HTC is making their own like 3D thing, and it's like I'm not sure if you do it with one phone or two. There's somewhere you can put like I know there's something they have where you put two phones and like a blindfold thing over you, and it creates 3D for you. But I can't remember because that's whatever HTC is doing. That's what Valve is using for their 3D.
Huh.
Their home 3D stuff. So I think Valve will still support other 3D stuff because Valve's all about like selling the game. So they really don't like they'll make their own hardware, but they really don't care what happens as long as the software sales goes to them.
Funny. It's funny how that works. So I don't know if I'm interested in VR as much as I want like augmented reality. That's really where I'm at.
You want the HoloLens?
Yeah. Well, I want something that I can put on the front of my gun so I know exactly where it's pointed. I want things that do scans of people's faces as they walk by and gives me an entire history of them I can read. Things that don't exist.
Just fire from the hip because you always know where the target reticle is.
Oh, that's great point shooting. It's like, nope, that's enhanced reality. Thank you very much. Well, that's what that Google Glass was supposed to be, something like that, right?
Yeah. It was just an overlay. I don't think it ever did really any augmented reality stuff. Well, actually, I can't remember. I think that was the promise was augmented reality, but
yeah. Well,
ultimately it was lame. Yeah.
Well, it just disappeared in a sex scandal or whatever you want to believe.
I think they just got bored with it.
Yeah. Well, people were laughing about it.
Yeah.
They had all kinds of battery problems, and I don't know what else.
Well, I'd say I think if Google wanted to, they could have succumbed any technical boundary that was with that. I mean, it probably would just cost more, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think there just seemed to be they're bored with it.
Yeah, and I think some of that stuff hits a boundary of there's like they probably had a sales team sit down and it's like, look, most people will spend this much money. This is kind of their bullshit threshold. And right now the bullshit threshold is kind of like the iPhone. Like people will spend money on that all the time for some reason to have a new one. But yeah, this combined with that probably wasn't going to work out for them.
Apple just works on the old Nader model.
What's that?
Planned obsolescence.
Oh yeah.
This iPhone sucks. There's a new one. Oh, that'll fix everything.
Every year there's a new one now.
Yeah.
I remember it used to be like
they haven't stopped doing that, Nathan. There wasn't like a year they made the same iPhone.
Oh no! When the first ones came out, it took like 2 years, or they had one with a letter after it.
Yeah.
Basically the same.
Yeah, because you had 4 and the 4S and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now,
but yeah,
every year it's a jumps a number.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And then the applications they have for them, they start requiring you to have the new model, and that's when people like get antsy and like, oh, I'm gonna need a new iPhone.
Yeah.
So I remember when I had my iPod Touch, and I had like an older model, and I was like, oh, cool, I can play these iPhone games on here. And then I started getting like, there's some cool new iPhone games that came out, and I download them. And it's like, it doesn't work for your system anymore. It's like, it's an iPhone game. Shouldn't it work? It's like, oh no, we've secretly made it that, this shit doesn't work for old models anymore. You're just going to buy a new one.
Yeah, hell, the iPod's about gone now. I mean,
yeah,
they still make them, but you have to go look for them on their website now.
Yeah. I mean, that's everything, but yeah, I mean, there's because everybody just has their phone as their iPod.
Yeah,
and because it used to be like phones had limited memory, so you didn't have enough gigs to hold it'd be irresponsible to have all your gigs of music on your cell phone, but now that everything's in the cloud, now it doesn't. Now you don't have. Now that's not a concern anymore. You just stream everything. So,
Yeah.
and now nobody has their own music library. They just have Spotify or Pandora or whatever.
I'm still one of those old guys that has a music library.
I have both. I've transitioned to. I mostly get everything on Amazon Music. And because I'm Prime, they have some stuff that's just free for Prime members, so that's been kind of nice. I think about some of the playlists I've been creating recently, like usually 1 out of 10 songs is from the Prime playlist, so it's like, okay, 1 out of 10 songs free. Okay, that works. The Spotify is really good. I mean, I found with Spotify, you never have to listen to commercials as long as you never play through an entire song.
Oh, really? Is that
Yeah.
the truth?
Yeah, so if you get to the end of a song, it'll trigger to go on to like whatever is next in the playlist that you're on. And once you hit so many like playthroughs, you'll hit the commercial wall. Like, so you have a commercial and then it continues on with the rest of your playlist. But if you just click to the next song, you skip over that whole commercial thing. You never see it. But usually that's a hassle. Usually kind of like, if you're like have music on in the background, you're never gonna sit there and like, all right, the song's about to end. Quickly click to the next song. But sometimes I get into like music mode and I sit down and like I just sit there and listen to music and play parts over and over again and things like that. And so I'm like listening. I either sit there and listen to a whole song, or I sit there and like scrub through like hundreds of songs. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I still do that. Let's see. Oh, aren't there a lot of people trying to get off Spotify now?
Probably. I mean,
Artists?
yeah, the artist probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Spotify kind of killed that iTunes changed in an update and it fucked everything for how they organize some of their music.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Because I used to buy an obscene amounts of comedy CDs.
Yeah.
Like because that had a new release section for comedy. And it's like, oh, here's the new comedy CD. And I kind of would sit there and listen to snippets and like, do I want to buy this or not? And I just buy almost everything. And then they got rid of that. So I didn't know what was new or what was not new. Like the only time I find out whether someone has a new CD out or not is if they're they're promoting it on a podcast. And then at some point you just find out all these comedians I listen to just have their own podcast. So then I don't even listen to their CDs anymore. I just listen to their podcasts. But now Spotify has a lot of comedy CDs on there, so now I don't even need to buy a comedy CD anymore.
Now, why did Apple go to that form of iTunes? Because everyone hates it.
I can't remember. I can't remember what the change was.
Yeah.
I think that's when they really started to switch over from music only to now it started to be like more of a TV thing.
Oh, okay.
So I think I think the features they implemented, they wanted to create something that would be searchable, have searchable fields for both the music and the TV and the movies and stuff. So they probably had to like fucking rework their entire database, and that probably just screws up, like, from dealing with computer programming, it's real easy to fuck up everything and not know why. So
Well, yeah, it's just like my sound thing I had to replace. It just went completely obsolete.
That's
Actually was doing weird things too. Remember we had the one show we started, we had to unplug it, plug it back in.
yeah.
You're like, yeah, try that, and all of a sudden it worked. Well, I was having to do that more and more often.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then finally, when the new OS came out, they were like, nope, we give up. We're not. Weird thing is though, with Apple and like off-board shit like this, you don't really need what they would consider drivers like you do in Windows. It just needs to recognize it, and it lets it take over.
Yeah.
But if they stop putting that clip in there that lets it recognize it, it just doesn't work. It's just like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's weird things you have to do with apples every once in a while.
yeah.
Well, I saw like what people had to do because for a computer programming class we use Python, and like for Windows you just download it and install it, but like for Apple you basically have to write a program to install it. It's weird. I mean, it's not that complicated, but it's complicated enough to make you go, fuck this.
Yeah. Well, I think they try to make everything work with it. Like, I've always had good luck buying stuff and making it work, but boy, sometimes they'll just like, we're not supporting that anymore. It's like, why? The fuck? Oh, we're supporting it again. Oh, Jesus. But that's hard to understand what goes on.
Apple just has a limited range of people that they focus on. So
Yeah.
sometimes the needs you want aren't the needs they provide.
Yeah. Computers are going out.
I want this obscure thing. Well, you should have bought Linux and learned how to code.
People swear by that.
Yeah. I kind of want to do that. Get a computer and just install Linux on it, because then it's like a learning process.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
It's like 1994 all over again.
Yeah.
It's at C semicolon / /.
They don't program like that anymore, do they?
Yeah, there's some stuff like that in Linux. You still have to program. Yeah. You have to.
I haven't seen that in years.
It doesn't. It's not like a DOS prompt. It's just like, well, yeah, shit. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a DOS. I guess it's like a DOS prompt.
Huh.
It's basically like instead of clicking the start button, you type that in.
Yeah.
But because I mean, the thing what people swear by Linux by is because it's not bogged down by like all this fluff that's meant to like make it user friendly.
Oh,
So then it works way more efficiently. And it's also because it's what do you call that? Open source, it's usually being fixed a lot. So that's why, programmers and stuff usually swear by Linux. But then there's, the Linux person is always the weird person. It's like, oh, it's available. You can download it for your Mac or PC. It's like, what about Linux? Oh, go fuck yourself. Figure it out. That's what Steam, they have a version of Steam they can download for Linux. And because Steam hates Windows, or Valve hates Windows, because Windows is really heavy on your computer. So like all that power is not going to play the video game. So they made a Linux version of Steam where basically all the power is going right to your video game.
Oh, okay.
But you can only play games that work with Linux on the Linux Steam OS. Still a lot of games. They have those Steam boxes now you can buy and play Steam games on your TV.
Yeah, I saw that's like the Steam controller and all that.
Yeah.
I saw that this weekend.
I don't know. I would like to try it, but I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
Because
expensive? Was it like $60 or something?
No, it's $50, but it's weird. It's not like a normal controller.
Yeah.
Because what they wanted to do is they wanted to make a controller that would replace people having to have a keyboard and mouse with them. So they made this controller that would basically allow you to play an RTS game on your couch with a controller. Like that's kind of the purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kind of misses that kind of when it's trying to do that, you're holding it back from being able to play shooters as well, because it's not really meant to do that, because now you're splitting the difference and you're making it weaker because of it.
It's a big control.
Is it?
Big in the hands. Yeah, it looks big in the hands.
Well, I know the one thing, there's a weird curve to it. So you know how like 360, like 360 Xbox One, Xbox controllers, you know how they like curve downwards,
Mm-hmm.
like into the palm of your hands, like so. This thing it looks like an Xbox controller, but actually it curves up into your palms. It's weird.
Huh. Oh yeah, I can see that now.
And so yeah, then there's those track pads on there, and they actually do have an analog stick on there too. But then there's like track pads, and there's one with like a kind of a D-pad on it, and that's kind of like your scroll bar, like left or right, and so that's kind of emulating the mouse in a way. And then there's another trackpad that kind of has concentric circles in it for something. But yeah, I haven't heard great things about it, but I would like to try it out just to be like, yep, this sucks.
Paid $50 to learn that.
I'll probably get like the Oculus Rift or something, play one game for 10 hours and like, well, that was the worst $350 I ever spent.
My son had a interesting experience today.
So
Stacy was at some store looking at something, and there's that weird Army surplus store right down the street. It's like, let's go to the Army surplus store, Grayson. You learn about all the people you meet in those places. So that was a growing experience. So
he get his bug out bag build.
they had them there. They were offering classes.
Build your own bug out bag.
Yep. Yeah, he had a good time though.
Mine has high grain alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Not for medical purposes.
It's made out of canvas. I can spill Everclear on it and it won't melt it.
What did he find interesting in the
Oh, just all they had like a lot of old stuff there. Like, old tools and trenching tools, ammunition boxes, things like that.
like World War II era or even later?
No, mostly modern era.
Okay.
They had a few things from the Vietnam. World War II stuff's too valuable now.
That's what I figured.
There's just not enough.
Or just be replicas.
Yeah. Well, they had stuff there from that era, but it was up on the walls.
Okay.
And I said, look, you see how tiny those uniforms are? That's what the world was like before everyone ate Twinkies and Mountain Dew. Those tiny little people. And but yeah, there was a lot of people in and out of there. The usual cast of characters. Strange people looking for strange stuff. People in there with questions. How do you kill a man with a toothpick? Those kind of. And then they had one homeless guy, I think, and he got a shirt. Well, it's like more like a coat / shirt. I don't know how you describe it, but it had the German flags on it and stuff, and it was made in 1999, but it was brand new, like you could tell, and he thought that was pretty cool. Like, yeah, wear that around. And they had stuff from they had a bunch of Czech stuff, Czechoslovakian army stuff there too.
Huh.
It's just little bits of this and that. You know, a lot of those places they're either way too expensive or they're dying out.
Yeah.
You don't see them like you used to.
Well, I imagine just the internet would probably make some of those thrive and some of those die.
Yeah, it depends.
Like those places that operate and do internet stuff will probably do well because they have a consumer base worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And then the places that just refuse to do that are probably dying out.
This is the guy that refuses. I've talked to him before. He's been running that place since 1956.
Huh.
So yeah, he when you buy something, he has a card machine now. As of like 2 years ago. But yeah, when you buy something, he's like writing out stuff by hand. Yeah, it's old school.
I always find it weird when I see like military fatigues and people are wearing them like pants and stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, because I always want to be like, that guy's an asshole, but it's like, military surplus, I guess. You know, who gives a shit? But and then there's sometimes like, is that a guy a Marine or just an asshole?
yeah,
or both.
I can see why people would buy the clothes and modify them to your own tastes.
Yeah,
I like all the pockets on this, but I'm going to change the color and take the weird buttons off. You know, stuff like I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, people that would just wear like camouflage stuff that was obviously like, are you going to fight in the desert? What do you do? Because you've got, you know, a shirt's fine, pants are fine, but when you're wearing a combination of both and you're going to, you know, work on a farm or it's like, what message are you sending here?
I've become okay with the people who just have the pants as just pants. Like I'm kind of just fine with that. Because it's like, yeah, like you said, there's utility pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even get to fucking use those things anyways. The pockets especially.
Right.
Because you have to look good, so you can't have things in your pockets all the time.
Like a bunch of rocks. Shell casings or whatever you
boot camp, we used to put so much shit in all our pockets just to have it.
Just to carry it with you.
Yeah.
What do you got there? Marbles?
And then you find out, yeah, you're not supposed to do that. It's like, how else am I supposed to carry? I have so much shit. I don't know how to carry it.
Giving you pockets, but never use them.
Yeah. Well, no, if you're in the field or you know some combat zone, it's perfect. Use all those goddamn pockets all you want. It doesn't matter anymore.
You know, it looks horribly uncomfortable when I think about it. And mind you, I've only ever thought about it. Will never put this into practice. But magazines for M4s, like
yeah,
stuffed into pockets, I could imagine falling, and like that would just dig right into you.
Yep.
That seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But
well,
I know they make special pouches for that purpose.
Yeah, you have magazine pouches, and you can put those on your flak.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you usually put that on. You usually put your magazines on your opposite side, so that like the side you kind of lay down on to shoot, so they're not there digging into your goddamn rib cage.
Right.
So yeah, there's that, and then also like if you have empty magazines, they have a dump pouch that you put on the side, and that's just where you dump all your magazines. It's kind of on your hip, so it'd be really hard to fall on it if you're not just falling directly on your hip.
Right.
Whereas like like when you put them in your leg pockets, and you have like 4 magazines in one pocket, it's really easy to like hit it wrong and like shit.
It's gonna hurt. Well, loaded magazines like that are heavy.
Yeah.
You get like 10 of them loaded. That's a good deal of weight.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's discipline. Well, it's some of the in that book, This Kind of War, about the Korean War, like that was explaining like how undisciplined like a lot of the army was at the time, where like people were like cutting short ammo because they didn't want to carry it, and they didn't fill up their canteens with water. because they don't want to carry
What
it.
are they thinking?
So like they're fucking like end up like fighting and like they're out of ammo and they're fuck, what do you call that? When they have not starving. What's starving for water? What the fuck is that?
Dehydration.
Yeah, dehydration. Guess. I thought there was another word for that.
Thirst.
Yeah, thirst, whatever. Okay. I'm thinking there's got to be another word, but yeah, like they're just dehydrating and dying because they don't have any water and they're getting shot because they don't have any bullets to shoot back with.
Well, you know those weird Boston Dynamic like walking dog things?
Yeah,
What those are primarily being developed for?
just carry shit.
Carry ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly it just they actually showed the thing draped over. It's like this thing's just going to carry like 5,000 rounds of ammunition because everyone thought, oh, they're going to put like a coaxial machine gun on her. No, it's just going to carry ammo.
Well, that's the thing when you see what is it? So when we did MTC, like we are carrying a bunch of shit. So we were like running around and flak and Kevlar and all that stuff. Had our rifles on us all the time. But you see, like I think it's ITV. It's infantry training, something like that. And like those guys, they do all the same stuff, but then they have like a bunch of ammo on them that they got to carry. And then like if you're the mortarman or if you're the machine gunner, then you have like a ton more ammo. And like if you're a mortarman, you have to carry not only like machine gun ammo, but like mortar rounds and like the mortar tube and the mortar base plate and all that shit.
That does not look like a good.
And then like that, like here's a hill, like we're gonna be running.
The only thing I can imagine was worse would be the flame throwing guy. Of course, they don't really exist anymore, do they?
No.
Whatever happened to that? Was that just outlawed?
Yeah, I think that's against the Geneva. Well, I don't know. What's the difference between that and dropping a napalm bomb on somebody? I think you can still do that. So
I think the problem with those is if you shot the guy, you could wipe out like 5 people.
yeah,
It was kind of obvious who that guy was.
I think it was just nobody wanted to be the flamethrower guy.
Bullet magnet, because all the guys
Yeah.
like shoot that fucker first.
And it was just unwieldy, and I think it was just too volatile to have as like an infantry weapon.
Yeah. Now the flame throwing tank, on the other hand, that'll make them stand up and take notice. Or at least I imagine it would.
Oh shit, here's a tank. Oh no, it's spewing sticky fire.
It was bad enough when it was shooting things. Let me ask you: do you ever talk to anyone who's who are you ever known anyone who was a mortar guy?
Not in combat. I know one guy who was a welder and now he is a mortarman in the reserves, but I don't know anybody. I've read a bunch of I've read a bunch of World War II books about World War, because there's 2 books. The one guy, Sledge from the Pacific, like he wrote that book with the Old Breed, and then his like unit leader R.V. Bergen, he wrote another book about it. So it was like 2 perspectives about the same exact like war. Like they were in the same unit the entire time, and there's like it's interesting just how it diverges. But yeah, they talk about like how many people they killed, and it's like you can kill some people with a rifle, but you kill way more people with a mortar because you can put a mortar in places that a rifle bullet cannot go.
I was amazed. I forget where I was reading this. It was a book, but they were talking about, and I think it was maybe the Russians, but they were talking about how like the mortar guys would get killed all the time.
Yeah.
They drop one in and just fucking explode.
Oh, that okay.
Like 4 guys, because I don't think it was an American story though. But I just always wondered. It's like that sounds like a very dangerous job if that's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about like mortar accidents, but I imagine it happens.
Yeah.
Just a dud happens and somebody's got to go in there and get the dud and throw it away from everybody.
Well, the story I was reading, the guy that lived was they dropped one in there, and it didn't hit the primer and just wham. but they heard it in there with the fuse burning. They knew what the fuck you could hear. It was like a fuse burning in a metal can.
Yeah.
And so they had to dump that over real quick. And they were like, oh, yeah, this happens a lot. I don't know if this was stole during World War II or the Afghanistan. I can't remember how long ago it was. But I know it was Russians. So I was like, well, these kind of equipment failures seem par for the course for them. But
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of advances in mortar technology. Other than I believe there is satellite aimed mortars that you can have now. Like I think the aiming device is different, but everything else is pretty much just the same as it was in World War II.
yeah, if the guys can dial those in, that would be very frightening.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
Death from above, like, oh, here it comes.
yeah, it's like that's what in the Islands of the Dam. That's the R.V. Bergen book. He said like once they hit an area and walked through, it's like they knew what they did, and like they walked through and be like 80 people dead, and it's like, and it was just them like they're just walking through a square. So it's like, all right, we're gonna bracket them in. All right, we're gonna start firing here. We're gonna start firing here, and just work our way in. It's like, and then like that shit's just exploding above their heads. It's terrible, and like to a T in every book I've ever read about military. The most terrifying thing in the world is an artillery strike.
Oh yeah.
That's what make people go crazy and lose their minds, especially if it was just nonstop artillery, people dying all around you, and just the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what was so scary about when they started developing that system. What was that called? Time on target, where everything fires separately, but it all
arrives at the same time. Yeah.
It's like, holy shit. Yeah, and Satan laughs at it.
Yeah, that was like I think it was called the Defender or something. I'm not sure if they put or maybe it was called the Crusader. I can't remember. I'm not sure if they made him or not, but yeah, it was artillery. It was basically a tank.
They couldn't call it the Crusader anymore because they were going to be deployed in the middle of the they changed the name.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they actually got made. Like I think it was like a British like prototype. But it looked like a tank, but it was an artillery piece on a tank platform, and the way the computer controlled it, like fired at different angles, and it loaded primers differently so that so it could fire at different angles, and all the artillery arrived at exactly the same time at the same spot.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff. You can do that. Just think of how much of that they used. Well, in World War I, it changed the landscape of France.
Yeah.
Like it physically, permanently, because they would just hammer away day and night, day and night,
yeah.
Day and night. Like it wasn't like a moving thing. It was like it just keep firing. The thing is, the people doing it seem so placid. Hand him the thing. Close the breech. Stand back. Here, the guy pulls it. But what's going on miles away is just people being blown to fucking vapor.
Yeah.
Like holy shit. Yep. The only thing that'll be worse are singularity devices. Once they start deploying those. Wouldn't want to be up on the battlefield when the miniature black holes start to open everywhere. Pull a whole man in.
Where'd he go? Nobody knows. Is he alive? Oh, definitely not.
Not in the way you think.
Did his soul go to heaven? God, no.
He not only left this life, he left this plane of existence. This physical being left this universe.
It's some Back to the Future shit. Like a guy gets sucked into singularity. It's like people go, "What happened? Who was that guy?" Never mind. Moving on.
They forget who he was. Like, I don't remember him.
Just wiped from existence immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, those kind of weapons. Again, the people stand up and take notice when you start deploying those types of things. Oh, man.
We could use the singularity to generate an infinity engine to travel space. Like, now let's just throw it at guys.
Launch that fucker. See what trying to think of what sci-fi book that was actually a weapon in.
It's been a weapon in plenty of games.
Yeah, but it was the Donaldson books. Because remember that was the last desperate gambit when they were being chased through the asteroid field. Because
And what?
the guy who's a cyborg, that Angus,
Oh, okay, yeah.
information would come into his head. He's like, "Oh, I've got to go down to the hall." It's like, "What are you doing? Just go full thrust when I say." And like this woman's talking in his head. The Mark IV singularity grenade is deployed this way. Because because he has to throw it out and shoot it, and then they have to go and it says, like, his computer says, yeah, your arms will get pulled out of the socket when you're holding on as soon as this thing goes off. It's just like really grim stuff.
Why does he have to shoot it? Is that how he sets it off?
Because he has the miniature version of the matter cannons.
Oh, so is he feeding the singularity so
You
it
have
grows?
to ignite it somehow, because
Oh, okay.
everyone had one. The aliens had them too, but they could never figure out how to detonate them. Because if you fired them with the shipborne systems, it just destroyed it.
Yeah.
But his gun was actually, because his gun would break a normal person's arm if they fired it, because he was a robot, he could shoot it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was calibrated specifically to set off the singularity grenade. Because that's why that was the weapon that they had, and that's how they got away. Because nobody thought anyone would be crazy enough to do something like that in an asteroid field, because it pulled all the asteroids in too.
Yeah.
It destroyed or did a lot of damage to all the other ships. But yeah, I've heard of it in other things too. I think they had something like it in Ender's Game.
Probably.
I don't remember.
Well, I mean, they had some device that basically killed everything. But...
Yeah. No, that was the one that reprogrammed.
Or isn't that like dematter things? Like it caused all matter to like separate.
Yeah, and it reformed into other things.
Yeah.
But it released a tremendous amount of energy. Those books borrowed a lot from one another, because they had the crystalline instantaneous communication
Yeah.
in both books. They even called it the same thing. It's like, how are they getting away with that? But I guess it's a principle that somebody else developed, and they were just borrowing the name.
Yeah.
So
Well, I like when the Gap Cycle goes into like exquisite detail about like how that, just a random chapter is like, this is how it works, but it's like, I can't remember. It's like whatever they had something that like they could inflict pain on it and would feel it all the way across the universe, and like that's how they'd send messages. It's like basically like antagonizing like some organic material.
if you grew crystals and you cloned the crystals and you grew them at the same time, if you shined light into one, or you made it vibrate at a certain frequency, the other one would vibrate at the same frequency regardless of how far away it was.
Yeah.
Because it was called like parallax communication or something.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, nobody knows if it's true, but
Yeah.
because everyone else had to send like drones to communicate, like they had to go through hyperspace.
Yeah.
The aliens could instantaneously communicate, which gave them an advantage. But then the aliens did stupid things too, so it's like, oh, I'm gonna hold Earth hostage. How long is that gonna last?
Well, the aliens are weird in that because they're almost Borg-like, but then they just have a weird. They don't seem to have a purpose. They just kind of exist to consume.
Yeah. Well, and everything's organic.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand how we survive and thrive, but we don't grow ships out of like mold spores. Make fungus that shit steel and stuff like that. We just manufacture stuff. That was the thing. Their ships were very powerful, but there weren't very many of them because it took so long to build them.
Yeah.
And it was all organically based. That'll never make it into a movie now.
No.
Too many other things out there like it.
No.
Well, some things, yeah.
I mean, once you have The Expanse comes out, I mean, it's pretty much that's kind of the end of that. But because like a lot, I mean, there's others. The sci-fi elements are very familiar with that book. It's just usually the harsh.
Well, yeah, all the rape and sex is not a usual
Yeah.
sci-fi.
That's where you pair it up directly alongside Game of Thrones.
Very
And
Game
then-
of Thrones.
Yeah.
Well, see, he was writing books like that, like the Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever books. Like that whole book was that guy was a rapist,
Yeah.
and that was in the 70s. They were telling stories like that, and they're very well regarded, but they're seen as untouchable, and they're very hugely complicated too. But
Yeah.
yeah, they were always seen as kind of untouchable for that reason, because of all the the sex and stuff like that going on. But, that's the 70s. Nowadays, you gotta have that. Well, anyway, I think that's about it for me. Do you have anything else?
Saw Jessica Jones
Oh,
first
okay.
3 or 4 episodes.
So what's that?
It's she's a superhero. She's a Marvel superhero. This is part of Netflix. Netflix has a deal with Marvel where they make some TV shows based on their characters. So Daredevil was their first show, and this is their second show. And I believe they're making there's a character named Luke Cage, who's in this show, Jessica Jones, and so I think he's getting his own series as well. I don't think that's coming until like next year or something. And then the second season of Daredevil comes pretty soon too.
Oh, okay.
So, but they all these characters are superhero characters that exist in Hell's Kitchen.
It's a nice place.
Yeah, it's actually shot in Hell's Kitchen. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. Which I didn't know that. I was sitting there. I was like, is this shot in like Toronto or something? Just made it look like New York, and then I looked it up. It's like, oh shit, it's actually shot in Hell's Kitchen. Okay, cool. Yeah, she's a private investigator, and her superpower basically is she's kind of invulnerable. Like lately she's been bleeding, like she got shot and she's bleeding and stuff, but she didn't seem to be like she didn't have to go to hospital for it. She just had to recover from it essentially. She can kind of fly, but not really. So basically, she can jump high and fall.
Okay.
It's not really she has super strength. So that's mostly what gets used most of the time. So they don't really have her flying all. Every once in a while, it's like she has to get her friend lives in some high rise in New York, and every once in a while they just show her like climbing over like the side of the railing on the outside. It's like, oh, she had to jump like 20 stories to get up there. But they just skip all that and just show her climbing over. It's like, how'd she get up there?
Fine.
Yeah, she just jumped up there. And then so here's the interesting thing is that there's a bad guy who can control people's minds. So he does a bunch of fucked up things to people. Like there's one guy, like he got hit by a bus. And so like he went to he was like his kidneys were failing. And so he found like an EMT that had was a compatible donor, and he made him donate both his kidneys to him. And then he also used to control Jessica Jones' mind. So because she has superpowers, he made her kill a bunch of people and that's a constant remorse for her. So she, pretty much stays alone all the time and drinks constantly. But because she doesn't have a car, she's in New York, she just get a cab everywhere. So it's okay.
Hammered most of the time.
Yeah. And I guess her backstory is that she went on a family trip they were somewhere out in like Arizona, and there was an accident, and like her whole family got killed. She got like hit with some radiation that gave her superpowers or whatever. So then she got was adopted by the Jones family, so that's why she's Jessica Jones. But yeah, so the a great bad name for a bad guy. His name's Kilgrave. That's the guy who can control people's mind, and that's done by none other than David Tennant, the Good Doctor.
Oh, really? He's
Yeah.
doing things. Huh?
Yep. Yeah, the first time you see him, she has like these PTSD episodes where everything goes purple. There's like a purple hue to everything, and then he'll just show up and like say something to her and disappear, and then like she'll like break a window because she's like reacting to it or something. And like I think the first time you see him, she's like her head is like laying down on a desk, and there's like a bottle of like some old turkey on there, and like David Tennant, yeah, wild turkey.
Yeah.
And then like David Tennant comes up and just licks her face, and then she's like, "What the fuck?" And then like he disappears. Like that's fucking weird. So it's pretty fucking dark.
Yeah.
Because like at the end, because the first episode, like he kidnaps this girl, and exactly the same way that he kind of mind controlled her. And so she tracks her down because the family comes and hires her to track her down. But then she realized that the person that recommended her to them was actually Kilgrave in the first place. And then she starts to put that all together, and she rescues the girl, and then like everything's all fine, and like they all walk into, she's like explaining how she can kind of like get over the mind controls thing. It's just like kind of time and distance, and like some mnemonic devices to like get over the mind control stuff.
Oh, she like says phrases and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like as they all go into the elevator, the girl like is smiling and pulls a gun and kills both her parents in the elevator. and then like she runs down there and both the parents are dead, and then like she looks over at Jessica Jones and says, "Smile," and she's just smiling, and then she's just, as her mind comes back into clarity, she's just immediately horrified that she killed both her parents. It's like, well, that's pretty fucked up. And so a lot of
pretty dark show.
Yeah. Well, also Daredevil is really dark too, but that was kind of expected. But yeah, like all that. Yeah, there seems to be a particular like that Hell's Kitchen is this like particularly dark, rich dark story for all the Marvel Universe stuff. So.
Oh, okay.
And then so Luke Cage is like some guy. He's also invulnerable. Like, there's like a point where he picks up on that she knows he's like a superhero, and he knows she is, and like he like breaks into her apartment, or he doesn't really break in. He's just like sitting around when she walks in because her doors. Some guy hired her to find out whether his wife was cheating on him, and she was, and that the guy got pissed off at her, and she threw him through her front door. So her front door is always constantly broken, and people are just walking into her apartment. So yeah, he shows up there with like a saw, circular saw, and he turns it on and like puts it against his stomach, and the blade just breaks apart as he does it.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, I'm invulnerable," and then they fuck.
Yeah.
They have lots of sex. Yeah. Compared to all the other Marvel, stuff, like this is pretty dark, gritty, and real. Well, relatively. And they also mention, so like the whole like Avengers thing where the aliens came in and fucked up New York, like that's part of the canon in both these shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they acknowledge that, huh?
Yeah. They don't say like the Avengers did this. They'll always kind of talk around. It's like, remember when the aliens attacked New York and something like that, and then there'll be and then they're talking about like are there other people like you, and it's like, I only know about the big green dude and his crew, and like that's what so they call them the Avengers. Like they just
okay. A little circular, huh?
Yeah, they just don't want to be like that. I guess they feel reticent to directly say the namesake. They'll just talk around it because I don't think they're not obligated to say it. They're also not. It's not like they can't say it either because it's still like Marvel owns all that stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah,
Check it out if I ever get Netflix.
yeah. But yeah, I think Marvel has two other shows that are on ABC. They have the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter show, but those are considerably more kid friendly than these shows are.
Yeah.
All right, that's about all I had.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Colin. Goodbye, America.